If you're a parent, you know some days can feel, well, like a constant struggle with focus and energy and just behavior in general. You are definitely not alone. Today, we're going to walk through a guide to understanding ADHD and hopefully move from confusion to real clarity. So, let's dive in.
Does any of this sound familiar? You know, that child who seems to have a motor that just never, ever stops? Or the one who just seems to drift away right when you need their attention the most? These aren't just little frustrating moments. For a lot of parents, they're the very first signs that lead to some much bigger questions.
And look, it's totally normal to be worried. Of course you are. You want to see your child happy and successful. Our whole goal here is to help you shift from that feeling of worry to one of understanding, so you can give them the support they actually need to thrive.
So what even is ADHD? I mean, it's a term we hear all the time, right? But it is often surrounded by so many myths. What we know for sure is that it's one of the most common and also one of the most misunderstood conditions affecting kids today.
Okay, this right here, this is probably the most important thing to get. ADHD isn't a choice. It's not a personality flaw. It is a neurodevelopmental disorder. And what that means is it's about the literal wiring of the brain and how that wiring controls attention, impulses, and energy. And honestly, that changes everything about how we should think about it.
And this is what it looks like in real life, day to day. We're talking about that struggle to finish homework, or even just a simple chore, the challenge of thinking before acting or speaking, and that constant restless energy. For these kids, it's like they're trying to perform a constant balancing act inside their own heads.
And this is a big one, a really big one. That unfinished homework, the constant interruptions, the fidgeting, these are not signs of a child who's being lazy or naughty. We really have to look past those easy labels and see what's actually going on underneath. It's just a difference in brain wiring.
And that brings us to this. This is really the heart of it all. This one sentence just reframes the entire challenge, doesn't it? The solution isn't about more pressure or just demanding more effort. The very first and most powerful step is simply understanding what your child is really going through.
So how do you go from that general nagging sense of worry to knowing if you should, take the next step? Well, it all starts with becoming a better observer. Let's break down some of the specific patterns to really watch for.
This is the big question for so many parents, right? You see the signs, but it's just so hard to know if they're serious enough. The goal isn't to jump to conclusions, but just to know when it might be time to gather a little more information.
The key word here is patterns. We're not talking about one bad day or a rough week. It's about a cycle that just keeps repeating, that constant struggle with schoolwork, the messy backpack, another note from the teacher, and then the emotional fallout that comes with it all, over and over and over.
And it's rarely just one piece of the puzzle. Think of it this way. ADHD often brings friends along for the ride, things like anxiety or sleep problems. That's why a good evaluation always looks at the whole child, not just one symptom by itself.
Okay, so you've been observing the patterns and you've decided, yep, it's time to get some help. What happens next? I know the word evaluation can sound pretty intimidating, but it's really just a structured way of getting answers. So let's just walk through what that actually looks like. Try to think of it less like a test your child can pass or fail, and more like creating a really detailed map. The whole point is just to get a clear, accurate picture of your child's unique brain, their strengths and their challenges.
So this is the typical path. Step 1 is the history. That's where you get to share everything you know as their parent. You're the expert. Step 2, you've got questionnaires to get feedback from both you and their teachers. Then comes observation, where a professional actually sees firsthand how your child handles different tasks. Sometimes they might do some testing to pinpoint specific strengths and weaknesses. And all of it leads to the final and most important step, making a plan together to provide support.
Let's just pause on this for a second, because it's so important. The entire point of this whole process is positive. It's all about finding the right tools and strategies to help your child navigate the world successfully while celebrating the awesome person they already are.
And that brings us to the most hopeful part of this whole journey. You see, a diagnosis isn't an endpoint. It's really a starting line. It's the moment you finally get the right information to truly start unlocking your child's incredible potential. And here's the amazing thing. With a clear understanding and the right toolkit, new routines, different supports at school, maybe some other options, kids with ADHD absolutely can and do thrive. It's all about finding what works for them.
Okay, let's do a quick lightning round on a few common questions parents almost always have. First up, the big one. Will they just grow out of it?
The short answer is no. Because it's rooted in how the brain developed, it's not really a phase they'll outgrow. But, and this is a big but, the great news is they can learn really powerful strategies to manage it, and even turn some of those challenges into major strengths as they get older.
All right, next up. This is another major concern for a lot of families. Does getting a diagnosis automatically mean medication?
And again, the answer here is a definite no. Think of support as a big toolbox. Medication is just one of the tools in there. Many families find huge success just with behavioral therapies and new strategies at home and school. It's just one of several options to talk about with your doctor.
And for our last question, let's talk about something really important: feelings. We've talked a lot about focus and energy, but what's going on with their heart?
Oh, 100%, yes. Just imagine constantly feeling like you are trying your absolute hardest, but you're still falling short. That experience can take a huge toll, leading to some really deep frustration, anxiety, and low self-esteem. And that's why understanding is so much more than just a diagnosis. It's an emotional lifeline for them.
So, let's just leave it with this final thought. This question really brings it all together, doesn't it? It suggests that before any plan, before any therapy, before any strategy, maybe the most powerful and transformative thing a parent can do is to just truly understand the world through their child's eyes. And that right there, that can change everything.